you very much for the opportunity, and thank you all for the opportunity to present with you tonight, and for coming out. I really appreciate it. And this is an important process, and it's good for all of us to come and talk with you, so thank you for giving that opportunity. Just as a matter of background for me, I moved to the city about 26 years ago. My husband and I lived in Bay Village. We lived in the South End for about 25 of those 26 years. Before that, I grew up in Revere, and I always say that we call it the Riviera. That's how we try to sort of glamorize my childhood. And I came into the city having grown up with a very different life, and this city really embraced me. And it's part of why I want to run and be a part of the process of making lives better for people in the city. Growing up in Revere, I grew up in public housing, and my father cleaned airplanes for U.S. Airways for 32 years and retired as a member of the Machinists Union. I followed in my dad's footsteps and went to work for Northwest Airlines. I worked for 10 years as a member of the same union, the Machinists Union. And that taught me the value of having a good job. And that was a good job at the time where you could make a decent pay, you could raise a family, and you could protect them. You had health insurance, and we had travel benefits, so we were able to go to Florida once in a while too. My mom would always say, my dad passed away a year ago, but my mom would say that our father worked really hard to take care of us, but that she was really the one that made things happen. And she pushed my father, and if he was here today, he would tell you that it was my mother who was the reason that we were able to be as successful as we were and have a little bit of improvements to our life. My parents had an opportunity to buy a business when we were kids in our hometown with an uncle. And my mother always says to me at this point, don't lie and say that we didn't have any money. We had money. They struggled a little bit, but they saved as much money as they possibly could. But they didn't have enough. And so they had to go to everybody in the they knew, every neighbor, every friend, every relative, and literally ask for whatever they could give. That's not me. That's great. I thought my time was up.
No, not yet.
They had to go to everybody they knew. And the fact of the matter is that every single person they asked for helped them. Whether they gave them $100 or $1,000, every single person helped them. My parents were able to buy that business, and that led to a second business that they were able to buy. We were able to move out of public housing into a private home, and our lives improved a little bit. And my parents taught us a couple of lessons from that. That hard work and spirit of entrepreneurship will improve your life, but that you can't do it alone. And you have a community that supports you, you have friends and a network that will have your back, that you can make a better life for yourself. And we have to remember that we didn't do it on our own, that people helped us, and we have to always give back. And so it's that value that I take with me that's made me want to have a life of public service. I went to work for Mayor Menino for many years here at City Hall. And I'll tell you, as I started campaigning a few months ago, I traveled to every single neighborhood of this district. And if we look at District 2, South Boston, South End, Chinatown, downtown, a little piece of Beacon Hill, Bay Village, a lot of people would say that these neighborhoods have absolutely nothing in common. But I can tell you that people are talking about the exact same things that you're talking about right now. People are talking about, they're worried about having affordable homes. It's true the city is not affordable anymore, and we can do a better job. People are talking about having good schools. And I've heard other people mention tonight, but it's absolutely true. Every neighborhood that I go to, people say, if my kids get into this school, I can stay in the city. If they go into that school, I can't stay in the city. That's a problem, and we need to fix it, and it's a fixable problem. As a city councilor, I want to focus on that from day one. I was a small business owner. My parents bought a business. I followed in my parents' footsteps. I owned an ice cream store in the city that I grew up in for a while. I know what small business people are up against, and I know that sometimes government doesn't promote business-friendly policies and can make it difficult. That's something I want to focus on. I talk to small business people here that are having the same struggles that residents are having. A lot of them are residents, but their business are becoming more and more unaffordable and thinking about not being able to stay in the city. That's a real problem. Small businesses and local businesses are the backbone of our communities. They provide jobs and resources and give back into the community. I hope that's 4 minutes.
That's 1 minute.
1 minute to go. This is where I start to talk fast. That's something that I want to focus on. Public safety is a major issue that I want to focus on. As we start to worry about the warm weather that's coming, I want to make sure that we're providing enough resources and community service policing to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. But I also want to make sure that part of that public safety plan is making sure that young people in our city have an opportunity. And that's a big part of what my campaign is about, is making sure that people in the city have an opportunity to make their lives better, that there's a path for them to actually make their lives better, like my family had. That's something I'd like to give them. In my time working for Mayor Menino, I was his neighborhood services person for the South End of Bay Village. One of the best jobs that I ever had, dealing with those same issues that a city council will be dealing with. Sort of granular, making sure streets are paved and streets are clean and hokies are out and people have someone that they can rely on. I will be that city councilor. I did it before and I'll do it again. And I want to do that. I was mayor's liaison to the LGBTQ community. I've been a leader in the fight for equality in this city and in this country for almost 30 years. I did March on Washington in the 90s. I fought for safe schools in this city. It's something that I've really important to make sure that every single person in every single neighborhood of this city feels respected and valued. My husband came to this country with about $23 in his pocket, and he worked hard to make sure that he could make a better life for himself, and people helped him along the way. My last few years in the mayor's office, last 7, I worked in the rental housing office and talked about housing in the city. I worked for 7 years fighting to make sure that seniors had a place to live, that people who were facing eviction had the support that they needed so that they didn't lose their homes. And I fought during one of the worst foreclosure crises this country has ever seen. I was in the front lines making sure that people didn't lose their home, making sure that we were providing resources to them. That's work that I'm proud to have done in the city. Those are experiences that I would like to bring to the City Council. I think that my personal experience, my advocacy, my ability to work across city services and work with state and federal government agencies to bring resources to the city, things that will make me a good city councilor. And finally, I would say that I am really happy to have received the endorsement of your state rep, my state rep, Aaron Mikowitz, and Senator Joe Von Pori. These are people that I have a lot of respect for. I know they go to work every day and work hard, and that's what I want to do as your city councilor. So I'm happy to take questions, but I want to thank you again for the opportunity. I hope you will consider me for your vote tonight, and I hope you will consider voting for me on September 26th. Thank you very much. Question?
No, I was looking at you, Stephen. No, I raise your hand. I have a question before Daniel.
Well, let me say, before anyone talks about the parking, Janine Capola left. I was going to say, we didn't bring up that issue. I was talking to Janine Capola on the phone about 20 years ago, and she yelled at the window, "You can't park there." That's the time that I want to go back
to. Janine usually puts a bureau on.
That's how I planned. Oh, there you are. I just referenced you.
Oh, you got that?
I did, yeah, sorry. I said, my parking plan before anyone asked me, I was talking to you on the phone, and you were yelling out the window, "You can't park there!" That's right, and I wouldn't.
Well, Daniel, that's a question. You mentioned the district, and it's quite diverse the one you're running for. How would you balance the different needs, obviously, Southie and Bay Village and Beacon Hill, Chinatown, as Stephen said, has huge issues with housing and displacement of that immigrant community, ESL.
So a lot of those, I like the first part is, and I'm trying to run my campaign that way. The first part is making sure that the city council for this district represents every single neighborhood in the district. And part of that is about being present so the seniors know that they can rely on you. As I said, a lot of the issues are the same, but there are some unique issues to every single community. And I had that, I'll say that when I went to work, Renina was the neighborhood services person in the South End in Bay Village. One of the first meetings I had was in Bay Village, and everyone said to me, you've all probably met your neighborhood services people. James probably came here once, Janine probably came here once. That first meeting is supposed to be a really friendly meet and greet, and everyone told me, don't worry, just go and introduce yourself, it's going to be fine, they're going to love you. I walked into Bay Village, and I had the most difficult meeting till this day I've ever had in my life. And part of that was that it was the first time the mayor and had combined the South End with Bay Village. They'd always been partnered up with Back Bay, and I think maybe there was some cachet to that. But also he partnered with the liaison role. And people, when I got there, were really angry. What they were angry about was they thought they weren't going to get paid attention to. So I spent an hour and 40 minutes at that meeting answering questions and talking to people about what I was going to do and how I was going to be there for them and make sure that their issues were my issues. And that's really what this job is about, making sure that every person in every neighborhood feels like they have someone working for them. And I'm looking at the whole district. This isn't about one neighborhood for me. I was that part of the reason I'm running is I want this district and this city to be a place that welcomes and values everyone. For a place where we provide opportunity and a pathway to success for every single person in every neighborhood. I want people to have the same life that I had, the dream big in the city and feel like living in the city, they can actually make those dreams come true. That comes from just working hard to make sure people see you, and I will work hard every single day for the people of this district. So I'm given that opportunity. Anyone else?
Michael.
Daniel.
How are you, pal?
Good, sir. How are you? Good.
We've known each other for many years, and we've talked about the education issue when you worked with me, and even when I was up in the State House many times. And I want to, Stephen Pascatilli talks about having our neighborhood schools, not enough seats in our school for our neighborhood kids. What is your plan with such a diverse neighborhood that you have?
I would agree. So you talked about the Elliott School, you talked about Chennai Community School. When I talk about schools that people say they want to, they get in or stay in the city, those are two of the schools I'm talking about. And I want to work hard to make sure that those schools have the resources to continue to do what they're doing. I want to expand spots in those schools, but I want to make sure that every other school in the district, in the city, quite frankly, can do as well as those schools. And that comes with making sure that we dedicate more resources to those schools' funds and making sure that we have a plan right away and look at what are the best case practices of the schools that are doing well. I've actually already started to talk to parents that are on the boards of those schools and talking about how can we partner you up with the schools that are struggling, and we can start to implement those. Part of the thing that's really good about a campaign is I met somebody in Ward 5 last night. She did a study on this specific issue. So we're going to start, before this campaign is over, we're going to put together a plan with people engaged that will certainly hit the ground running on day one to implement best practices. And I would certainly support increasing funds to schools. As a student of public housing, I think it's one of the most important resources that we have, and we have an absolute obligation to make sure that every single kid in the city has a chance at the best education. And this is a smart city. This is a smart city. No one in the world is going to tell me we can't in this city, and this is surrounded by the institutions that we have. And part of the role of a city councilor, I think, is to partner up, to look at nonprofit partners, to look at corporations that are doing well in the city, and see how we can partner up with schools to make up some of those gaps, to provide opportunities for young people in those schools. If I can, I'll tell you one quick story about my own niece. My niece was struggling at the beginning of the year, had been for a couple of years. She didn't know what she was doing. She'd go home at the end of the day. She didn't have anything else that interested her. She'd go on Facebook. I don't have a teenager in this room. Anybody been through this with a teenager? Spend hours on Facebook, and then she just didn't want to do anything. We met with her, my sister and I, we introduced her to a whole bunch of different programs, trying to find something that interested her. We finally got lucky and we got her over to Northeastern, and she found a robotics program that actually interested her. She started 1 day a week. By the middle of the year, she was going 6 days a week. She's traveled out of the state to championships. She just can't wait to do it next year. She asks us every day, can you take me to go hang around MIT? I think I might go there. That personal experience, to me, is something I'd like to bring to the city council. We need to go into schools and provide young people the opportunity and open doors and open their eyes to opportunities of how they can make a living. I've been, with my husband Ricardo, on the board and raising money for an organization called Youth Design that partners up with Boston Public Schools to connect young people who have an interest in art and design, and connect them with agencies in the city that are doing well in mentorship programs, and teach them they can actually make a living at this kind of thing. Those are the things that I think we can do in public schools. It's going to take somebody who has the know-how and the history of having brought people together, brought resources together to address the needs of people in the city. That's something I would bring to the city council. Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Anyone else? No? Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.